That's
Sure.
so. Good evening
Hey,
from.
Benjamin.
Hey, how are you?
I'm wonderful, brother. How are you?
I'm wonderful too. So a lot have happened over the weekend, and the thing got unstuck,
Yes.
and now it's sailing away. But along the line, over the weekend, I was doing a lot of interesting further research on the issue of maritime admiralty law, and I came across a lot of material that I wish I can share with the people. Okay, so
Yeah.
as we were talking before this recording, the laws operate differently in different jurisdictions. Okay, and the same applies to the maritime admiralty law. So what may be specific within or may be applied or deemed legal in certain jurisdiction may not be, deemed legal in other jurisdiction. And the framers of the maritime admiralty law or the law of the saw it as a way to bring all together so that when I have a dispute with another marine company, we use the international one which is overarching to what do you call it, settle the dispute kind of.
Mhm.
And in so doing, there are certain territories or boundaries within which these laws, operate. Okay. So there are territorial waters, there are what do you call it, international waters, and what do you call it, business where one can operate, and all of them are within specific nautical marriage range. So
Yeah.
we have kilometers on the land. On the sea, we don't talk about kilometers, we say nautical miles. And
Yeah.
nautical has to do with the way the sea, so we put all these things together, and then we what do you call it, sort of get all these things. Okay. And the Greek word for the word nautica actually comes from the Greek word nauticus. Mhm. And it is nautic from the Middle French word nautique. Okay. So which eventually, or from the Latin, nauticus means a ship or a sailor. Okay.
Yeah.
So um, you do business on the sea. Okay. And we say liquidity. Liquidity is what? Liquid. It flows.
Yeah.
It's water. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and it is also to be noted that all the vessels are females. I hope you know. That
Yeah.
is why it is called she. The vessel is always referred to any machine which can travel from one destination to the other is has a feminine gender. Okay, they don't give it a masculine. Okay, so when you buy something from one of these shipping companies, whether it will be flown or it will come by sea, the word they use is it will be shipped to you. Have you noticed
Yeah.
that? Okay,
Yes.
so when you have a ship, it's like a mother, a woman. Okay,
Yes.
so anything on board, the before it is sent to that particular location, all the things on board that ship have to be signed by the captain. And the word captain used is also from the word capital, capital, capital business. Okay.
Perfect.
Beautiful. Capital.
Yes.
And then, for instance, it's going to Newfoundland port. Okay. St. John's is going to, this ship will finally um, move to Newfoundland. From maybe New Zealand, it is moving all the way across the seas to New Zealand, to Newfoundland. So let's say a week from now, the ship may take that long to sail from New Zealand to uh, St. John's, okay, Newfoundland.
Yeah.
It is not there now, but in the morning from a week by now, when you go to the port and then it is there, it has manifested, okay?
Right.
So the captain have to show the certificate of manifest, okay? And this certificate of manifest has all the goods that was shipped from the other end. And whilst it was traveling, whilst it was on the sea, some may be thrown overboard or any accident can happen, okay? So when you manifest, the captain, the dock, it always also enter into a berth, okay? The dockyard. And the people who work at the doctor, must
Yes.
sign the certificate of manifest and give, they show the certificate of manifest, and then you receive the certificate of birth. Okay. So there's some kind of exchange over there. Okay. So within the transportation time, if there was something that was lost, you also have to account for it. That this one, it didn't arrive. It was designated to arrive at this port of entry, but because we met, problem on the seas, we have to release, some of them on board, to keep the ship alive. Okay.
Mhm.
And normally, the mother is always the key person when it comes to the mother child, survival listing. Sometimes they normally abort the child and keep the mother. Okay. And the same thing happens on the sea. When they meet trouble waters or they think the load is too much, what do? Normally, they release some cargo off and then throw it
Yeah.
away. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about the little port. Port, when we say port is actually a hole, a window, an entry, a door. So you came through a port and you come through the birth canal of your mom. Okay. And when they give birth to you, the waters of your mother broke forth. So water comes out of the woman and then you are birth. And then when the child is not stillbirth or stillborn, sorry, the doctor said we have a product. Okay, we have a good, so your product basically they give you,
Yeah.
they issue a certificate for you to, what do you call it? They issue a kind of certificate for you. Okay, so that is something to look at. Okay,
Yeah.
and I have spoken about the captain. The captain actually means the capital money, the capital, and capital is money. Well, the other day also, I did made mention of the bank. When we say bank, where do we find bank? The bank, we find it at the, what do you call it? The sides of the river or a water
Yes.
course. Okay, so at the bank actually control the flow, how the water is going to flow. Okay, and this this happen all the time within our, what do you call it, even in the courtroom. In the courtroom, you have the bench, which is also, in Latin, it's the same as the bank, they sit on the banks. So,
Yes.
and when you go in for a loan, a mortgage, okay, and you are losing the house, okay, they say your house or your home is going under the water. Do you get it?
Yeah.
It's going under
Yes.
the water. That means you are losing your house. Okay. And when you have a lot of debts, the English word actually that they use is you are drowning in debts. So, like we discussed some time ago, words have been used to sort of manipulate the human psyche into doing things that, for instance, words. When you take the S from the words and then you put it in front of the W, what do you get? It's a sword.
Sword. Yeah.
And it's dangerous. So your words, that is why the Bible says, by your words you are justified or condemned. So words are very, very, very important, especially
Yes.
in the realm of legal business and in the realm of law and in business. So there are certain words that are uttered in
Yeah.
the realm of business, and then it solves matters or it complicates matters. Okay. Now, when you are looking at the courts again in terms of this law, um, when you get into trouble and they put you in jail, you need someone to bail you out. Okay. Why do
Yeah.
they use the word bail? The word bail has to do with, in the olden days, okay, they had a bail, a kind of bucket, wooden bucket, that they put together with plywood. You've seen that kind of wooden reading books or storybooks. This bail, you have to fetch the water, so you are sinking in the water. So somebody have to bail you out. You are in water, so somebody, like a fish, okay? So somebody
Yeah.
have to fetch you out. Otherwise, you are going to drown or you are going to be in jail, okay? So
Yeah.
you need somebody to scoop water out of this boat, which you are in. Mm-hmm.
Benjamin,
Yeah.
will you lose your train of thought if I jump in here for a few minutes on a couple of those words?
You say?
Can I jump in now on
Yeah,
a
yeah,
couple of
yeah, yeah,
words?
yeah, 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 yeah. You
Yeah.
can jump in. You
You'll
can jump in at any time. Yeah.
okay.
Go.
You'll get back on
Yeah.
your story, but great explanation, brother. Like you really summed that up in some really simple words, rather than, legal jurisdiction, legalese stuff. You really did a good job. I appreciate that. So a couple of words again that you spoke of that come to mind when we consider this global event, okay, that's happening, is the word global and the word world, okay? Two words that don't refer to Mother Earth.
Mm-hmm.
They are human constructed words, right?
Mm-hmm.
Globalism, as we know it, is the trading of goods, internationally, but
Mm-hmm.
they use the word global. They love to use that word global, global warming, global this, global that. And then world, the same, World Bank, World Trade Center, World Health Organization, those. So two very important words there that are relative to this story, which is unfolding as we see it. We're, you know, the Suez Canal was opened in 1869, but
Mm-hmm.
for years previous to that, because back then, I don't know for sure how technology worked and stuff, but they held off building that thing because they didn't really know about the sea level. They were bought into this global story of, you know, of globe ball or whatever. And so once we got to that point of saying that sea is level and that we don't live on a globe ball, then okay, we'll just get this here done, you know, and finish off the Suez Canal, 1869. And as I said in our last interview, 1871 was when Ulysses S. Grant, think of that name for a second again, always to do with the water. He gets in there and you know, throws America away, basically, to these globalist banking families that figured they wanted to run the world, okay, and run the world and create the word world and everything, you know, like it was so obvious. So the only other thing I want to touch on here right at this point is banks, because that's my business, obviously, and how we well, there's a couple aspects to this. We know that it's all to do with banking, right? Because that's the monetary flow. That's what makes the economy work and the criminal activity work and everything else work. You know, it's all about the money. And you explained it very well when you talked about that, Benjamin. But, you know, a lot of times these jurisdictions and these zones that you spoke of earlier too, as far as how many nautical miles out belongs to one country or another, you know, that still brings in the idea of division. When there is a world order, okay, there's a world order going on here, and they'll play with the maritime or admiralty legal jurisdiction. I don't like to use the word law, but it is what it is, you know, maritime legal jurisdiction. And they'll say, well, we got an excuse. We can't go there, or we can't do this, or we can't do that, because that's their territory. When you and I both know that the territory all is under one world order. Mm-hmm. So people will get into this, and this is where I'm going to come into the wording about banks. Okay, so it's the banks, it's not the nations, it's not the countries, if you want to use that terminology, right? People will talk about it came from China, or China's this, or China's that. When we have this banking system that overrules the whole setup, right? So, you know, it's not about nation versus nation. They're all in this thing together. And what's happened now in this situation is all of the militaries of the world and navies of the world have said enough's enough, and we're going to collaborate, not collude, collaborate with the good people of the world and overturn this thing and get this back on track. So the criminals who are operating these shipping lines and moving people around and moving contraband around and drugs and weapons and everything else, who've been protected under this maritime judicial system, which is complete lunacy, giving them privacy, getting them off the hook for everything you can imagine because of that maritime judicial legal system. It's got to be surpassed, right, to get this story done. So where do you go to war, if you want to use that word, because it's all about words and war is a word? Then you do it in the maritime jurisdiction, not on the land. This time it's
on the waters.
That's right. So this is where they're taking it out this time. And even though that ship has moved, it's now anchored in a lake just north of where it was. Mm-hmm. And it's, from what we're hearing, is that there's already been, you know, Navy SEALs aboard, and they've rescued some people. There's already more military ships moving around in the area. They had to open it up so some of those military ships could get there. In my opinion, brother, what's going to happen is they're going to take it in that lake that it's in right now, and they're going to find a lot of things. And whether they can offload anything there or just examine it, there's going to be a major inspection. And the militaries, or the navies around Europe, nobody's really talking about this. There's a submarine that went missing, a so-called nuclear submarine, and there's all kinds of activities in the waters right now. It's just everything is coming to a head. And it's going to expose so much truth that you just explained so cognitively, brother, that it was beautiful. And how I'm trying to bring in the idea that the banking families, and I'm going to say the lowest level ones, the Bilderberg families, were the ones that were involved in this globalist agenda. I still will not defend, but I will still say that the upper families, the ones that hold the large accounts, hold the off ledger and the blocked accounts, they have some good ideas. But that lower level Bilderberg canal, where the governments all operate together, is where things were really out of control. And heinous crimes, smuggling of human beings, and you name it. There's so many things that have been going on, but we've reached the pinnacle, and it's going to change now. There's stories about the opening. I'm going to share a little bit, like you talk about movies, and I'll probably link it in the video. There's a Canadian, I think he's a Jewish man, but he's a Canadian producer that produced this documentary on what may have happened when the Red Sea parted and all of that. Oh my goodness, what a beautiful documentary, talking about a volcano out in the Mediterranean that caused all of this stuff, including the red color, including the gases that came up, including the people escaping on land where these lakes are. There was no Suez Canal back in those days. There was just lakes there and a lowland or whatever. And when they escaped, then partly because of this earthquakes that followed the volcanic eruption, that's what basically took out these armies that were trying to follow them and chase them down. It's a beautiful documentary, and like I say, I'll share the link when we get this put together, brother. But I'll put it back in your hands now for a few minutes. And please, can you allow me to just go to the washroom talk away?
Okay.
I'll be right back. So you just continue narrative.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So when we look at the nautical mile, the nautical mile in meters is about 1,852 actually meters. In meters, when we say 1 nautical mile, is the equivalent of 1,852 meters. And there are certain limits, from 3 meters nautical mile from the coastline of a particular country is deemed state territorial, waters. And then 12 nautical mile into the sea, stretching from the land, is territorial sea. Okay, so that one is whenever a country operates in that region is within their territorial, it is left for them alone. Like, this is where we can do business. We do business alone there. It's for us. And no other foreign vessel should be allowed to also play in this kind of area. And when you move 12 nautical miles from the 12 nautical mile, which is the territorial sea, zone, you move 24 nautical miles into the sea, a country can enforce some kind of law uh, based on the UNCLOS, that is United Nation Convention Law of the Seas. So you you can enforce some of these laws on foreign vessels, and from 12 nautical miles to 200 nautical miles into the sea, we call those places or that particular zone as an exclusive economic zone. And then 200 nautical miles inside the sea is the high seas, where the water column is beyond national jurisdiction. So if you have a litigation with a certain kind of boat, you cannot use your national laws to adjudicate in such matters. So then the international courts, come in to settle this kind of disputes. Okay, and the exclusive zone are for mining, research, and all that. So the military from another country, with the permission or collaboration of those, the exclusive economies, we can all, work together, but for our own good and for the interests of the whole. And so that comes to territorial, how the law operates. And just as we are discussing from behind, the maritime admiralty laws are, varied. There are a lot of laws, governing a lot of things. But when you narrow it, you can narrow it up to three, under three broad categorization. So, like subject matter, laws on particular subject matter, and then you can localize it or narrow it to territorial matters, and then pecuniary matters, where it has to do with cash. This vessel is owned by this company. They have maybe, been berthed in a place. And when you berth it as a place, you normally pay, or you are doing some dry docks there, and the origin of the ship, the ownership of the ship, sometimes the origin, the ownership, and the people working on it are from different, places. And when it comes to, litigation, you have to look at the subject matter. Where can I take this to? And my case will be, heard properly. Because if you don't get to the proper forum, you are lost. And it trickles down to, what do you call it? Business environment. There are certain jurisdictions or territories where your voice cannot be heard, okay? Or it will not be proper for you to. So before you tackle all these things, you must look at all the what do you call it? The parties involved, or the jurisdictions involved, so that you can get the proper attention. Otherwise, you will not be heard. So, like we are seeing now, the ship, this Evergreen, is a company in Taiwan. Okay, the owner of the ship, the name of the ship is Ever Given. The owner is a Japanese. Okay, it have a call name. So there are a lot of things. These little things, if you go into it, you see that, oh, this thing is so deep. So if they have a problem on the waters of Africa, okay, where are you going to address it? Because there are different parties at play. The owner of the ship is different. The country where the business is operating is different. And where the ship is registered is different. And all these things comes into play. So some people study these things in normal legal terms. They literally study the law. I always use films as, the firm. There's a movie called The Firm, where, this firm where a group of corrupt, families who practice law, they show people how to evade the tax, and they get students who are brilliant students from school who can, also use their brilliance to solve problems, but in a crooked way. So
Mm-hmm.
they teach you how to evade tax, and they teach you how to even pass the bar exam without without actually doing nothing. So
Yeah. And that,
before.
Benjamin, that's so important. What you just said there, I want to just make mention of that for a second or two, because it's, it is about manipulating the system. I'm not saying that, having separate nations and stuff like that is a horrible thing. We had to move into some kind of land borders, because there was so much, struggle among human beings over land for so long. So they had to do something. But the problem was that with the legal jurisdiction, maritime law, I don't even want to use the word law, but I have to, I guess. But it gave so many loopholes to intelligent people and intelligent criminals and intelligent government officials. And that's what we're dealing with, is a lot of corruption. And, the only way to deal with that is to deal with it in their own reality. It's like, it's like me trying to go into a court and fight it. It's not going to work,
You need an attorney.
Right. But in the case of what's happening now with militaries who have more power than words, okay? They have power in the form of guns and, explosives and whatnot. So when those militaries start to move around and gather together and work together, this whole structure doesn't have the same backing. There's no court there. And well, okay, I'm two nautical miles out of my jurisdiction, but wait a minute, there's children on that ship. I know there is, and they're going to be rescued by us, and you're not going to stand in our way. I don't care how many miles it is. It's had to get to that point because it was just out of control. And these governments of the world were telling the military what to do. The militaries of the world said enough is enough. All we're doing is protecting corporate entities, corporate governments. Yeah. And it's all about economies. It's all about oil. And they bullshitted us for so long about how it was about, dictators and stuff like that. My God, the amount of lives that were lost in war exceeds by so much the lives that any dictator took, or, in horrible manners. Don't get me wrong. I'm not supporting either one, but it's always about lives of human beings and these so-called wars that they've been waging, which is just economic demolition and economic reconstruction when we go back in and fix things again. That's all just to keep the slaves busy in their minds and busy with their hands, instead of realizing their power and recognizing the deception. Sovereignty, exactly, brother. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So, just as we spoke from behind, and looking at how these territorial things work, like I used the scenario in the movie called Desperate Rescue, which was a true account of an event that happened some time ago in Texas, about a Texas woman who got married to a student from Jordan. And this student from Jordan, they had, a child. Initially, the guy was not interested, but God like I always say, has his own way of doing things. The woman had a girl, okay? They divorced after some time because the guy was apparently looking for a paper, a document, to live in the US. So he had his documents, the child had been born, and he was also looking at how the law will work in his favor. And in Jordan, when a child is 7 years old, the mother have no right, to say, I want to keep the child, in my custody. But whilst in the US, this guy was paying alimony to the mother, and the US courts in Texas ruled in the favor of the woman to keep the child. But in Jordan, it was a different situation. So in a trickery manner, this guy stole the child and then went away with the child to Jordan. And a desperate woman looking for the child. Apparently, the story of Katimahon is one that is very emotional because he married a Jordanian man, it didn't work, married an old man that could be her father. That one also didn't work, So after the divorce, this woman sold everything and then started to look for the daughter. Some ex-military guys, military again, have to come in to work with the woman with pictures and all that. And they have to, break some of the laws, masquerade like they are filming in Jordan and then break some of the laws. And I was telling you that between the Allenby Bridge and, Jordan, that was a critical point. If you watch the movie, Desperate Rescue, is on YouTube. You can get it. It's an old, movie. So it was like this, very small. They had a narrow, but after they have crossed to the other side, the Jordanian, what do you call it, army, didn't have chance again. It's a matter of land, just a piece of land. And you cannot have, jurisdiction in that particular land. So I can give you crude what do you call it? Examples of what do you call it? Such laws, Some people go and in one, I won't mention the name of the country in Europe, but I know at one border post in this country, you can go and buy weed from the other end and then use it, okay? Or you can stand at the border and then do whatever you want to do with the marijuana, okay? But when you cross to the other side, army or police do not want the weed at that side, okay? Mm-hmm. So it's a matter of you doing your business, whatever you do there. When you finish, you can cross over because the law here favor me to do certain things. And the law, so people actually study some of these things. That is why in certain countries you can do business without taxations, and certain places you can do with taxation because they know what they are benefiting from and all that. It's all about legality and the framework and understanding it, and it work for certain interest group. And if you know how to manipulate these things, it work in your favor. And if you don't know, you still don't know, and you will be in what do you call it? You'll be at sea. Let me say at sea. It's there, but you don't know how to harness the power thereof. So that is it. So you can take it from here.
Yes. It's and there's some good stuff in there that I was thinking about as you're speaking, as far as backing up to the story about the governments colluding, right? I knew for 10 months one of the Bauer family, more leaning toward benevolent folk. Mm-hmm. Let me put it that way. I love the man, and I think he had a lot of really interesting things to say. and some solutions for the earth. He said to me, there hasn't been a war since World War II. Every other activity has been a corporate backed economic demolition, or something, because very few borders have changed since World War II. Israel and Jordan, yes, there's some shifting going on there, but most of the other borders have remained. But the idea of battles continues. So what are those battles over? They're battles over economy, over money, and over goods and services. So the idea of the legal system protecting that, or trying to protect it, is just so insane, because the legal system is full of garbage language, babble, like it's just babble. And one person can babble away and then go into a courtroom and it doesn't make any sense to the other people, especially to us. But the common law jurisdiction, where this man was a common law pure trust lawyer, or a trust lawyer, it's a lot simpler. Okay, it's a lot simpler at that common law level. And again, should I be using law? Well, it's closer to God's law than legal jurisdiction. That's for damn sure. So, but it explains a lot when you think of how criminals and criminal governments have and screwed up this plan that wasn't maybe all that bad. I'm trying to, like I say, I'm not trying to defend the New World Order or anything like that. People will come down on me and say that to me sometimes. But after World War II, we had some success for a while, and we've seen some development in nations around the world. We saw China, once they gave Hong Kong back to China, expand exponentially. How did they do that? Well, they did that because they got involved in the monetary system, right, of money creation. And was there some good things happen from that in each of our nations? Yes, there was. But the governments and the criminals just take advantage of it, and they couldn't be policed. And we have to change that. And now is the time. The changes are happening. And this is
govern. And then
yes.
Mint is where they make money.
Yes.
So how the money flows, who gets what,
right? And meant could either be the mines, which is control the mines, or control the money. It's the same thing. But the governments really don't have as much influence on economies as the private does. Okay, I've said this to a number of people when I try to explain, like, look at your city and look at the developers, the people who are building towers or housing developments in your city, and tell me that that's less than government property. It's not. It's way more. There's way more economic activity in that private sector. So the governments, as manipulative and exploitive and criminal as they are, they still have to back down. So what I'm trying to say here now with this, Benjamin, is that the large asset-backed account holders, call them heritage funds, call them global collateral accounts, I don't like that word, but the collateral accounts of Earth that are ancient, that are off ledger in the banks, meaning they can't be brought into the economy, but they still exist. Those people are collaborating with these militaries to stop this. Okay, stop this legal jurisdiction gong show. And it's that collaboration that's given these people this much power now to help us, to help the other people on the other end of this, right? So there's people, good people with accounts that want to help the good people that are among us, right? To open up monetary flow again and get this whole world back on track from this criminal activity that's been going on for far too long.
I,
I
I,
try to simplify it.
mhm.
Yeah, you go ahead, Benjamin. I'm good.
Yeah, good. Okay. Actually, these words, play of words, have been all around us, and this, sheep. How many words do you have sheep in them? A ship is a considerable size with deep water navigation. Okay, so you have words like ownership, lordship, rulership, leadership, partnership, relationship, and so on and so forth. Or so you cannot enter into relationship with yourself. Are you getting me? You enter into relationship with another, so you are in a ship.
Yes.
Apprenticeship, dealership, you are dealing with others. Fellowship, you are fellowshipping with others. Leadership, you are a leader, and then the rest are in a ship with you. So the leadership. So it's a whole lot of friendship, township. You cannot form a township on your own. There are other people who have to come together. Mhm. And so forth. And so these are play of words. And if you use it properly, you can get whatever you want. If you don't use it properly, it can, the same word. That's why the Bible look at it like a two-edged sword. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
It can cut here and there. It's a two-edged sword. So if you use it properly, it can cook for you. Okay.
Yes.
If
And
you
that,
don't use it, okay.
yeah. So the word of God, or, the Lord Jesus Christ being the word of God,
Mm-hmm.
is the good side of that. Okay. God being good.
Mm-hmm.
And then there is no separation. It's not about a sword. It's not about cutting things and destroying anything. It's about the word of God, which is compassion, love, kindness. It's that simple. So Lord Jesus Christ is the word of God. So we can bring that aspect into this and bring it into the Middle East, where that man existed
Mm-hmm.
and stood on the ground. It's Easter. We're looking at this from bringing it back into the context of what's going on in the Suez Canal right now. There's so many events that are just culminating in this release that we have to continue to bring out to people, Benjamin, because we realize and have studied this for many, many years, you and I. And most people do not. They just go about their business, running back and forth to their job.
TikTok.
So if we don't tell these stories, the media is not going to do it, and the military can't do it on their own. They need us. They need the people to understand, which is a term in that legal jurisdiction that's ridiculous. But we're asking people now to understand us, to understand that there is truth. And whether you get the whole picture from us, or you continue to seek from other YouTube channels or other alternative media people that are not coming at this with a bunch of anger and hate and blame, but with love and with calmness and with the ability to listen to each other. Okay, share our thoughts about how this has got to be a loving situation. We can't just do this without. And even these militaries that are doing it, they're doing it with their guns down. They're going in and saying, okay, drop your weapons. We're coming aboard. We're going to inspect this ship. It's so beautiful. And do they have the weapons to back them up? Of course. They're going to need that, because there's so many of these criminals that have armed themselves too.
To the teeth.
Yep, to the teeth.
Mm-hmm. So there's a lot, like you did make mention of the military. One guy was saying, yeah, the military, you guys claim the military is doing so much. We have to see what they are doing and what they are into. But the military will not come out to say they are doing so and so, because on the war front, uh, they will not leave their guns to come and then tell you that we are, you know, winning or we are doing this. But the fact remains that they are doing so much from behind, and we are not seeing so much, and that account for the desperation. Many people are waking up to see actually the rot in the system, and people are beginning to ask questions. Uh, the masses are asking questions, and they need answers, and the answers are not coming. So many people are beginning to get angry at the system, and it is not the fault of anybody. Now you have to open your eyes to like see for yourself, and then begin to um, demand for the people demand a response from the people you voted for to govern you, because if you don't demand for this kind of answers, you won't get. And in the end, these guys will take you for a ride. I was reading an account somebody gave about a politician. I don't want to call the name of the politician in the US, but he said literally, when this person was voted into Congress, this person couldn't even take money from where um, she's going to Congress, or he or she was going to Congress for. Okay, but at the end of the day, this person is now rich at the expense of the people. Every 4 years is a routine something again that every 4 years I'll be voted for. you know. So democracy for the people, by the people, of the people. And they make a lot of promises. Oh, we'll do this, we'll do this. At the end of the 4 years' time, they come to give you rhetorics. Oh, it's because of this, it's because of that, that is why we couldn't do this. And then they start, with something small. And some people who are gullible in nature uh, take bribes, and they are into the same partnership, the same kind of, group again. So the minority actually, uh, one of my lecturers will put it this way. He said, democracy is one form of government that is so bad, but that is what we like, because 45 people, 55 decide to kill about 45 people. So maybe we are 100 in a room. If we want something and 45 people are against, the majority, which are the 55, have won. So if it's beheading of all the, or taking the rights, whatever, sharing, these people are not supposed to get whatsoever the 55 is getting. That is, democracy for you, okay? But we need to come to a point where the resources will be properly allocated and everybody cared for and catered for. Then I think we can go to places. Not until that, I think we are not going anywhere. And so, I mean, though there will be, we are living in the earthly realm, and people, there will be sort of some level of unfairness. I think it shouldn't be so broad that the majority are not heard, but instead the minority rules.
Yes. So, brother, I want to suggest maybe we tidy it up a little bit now and go on at another.
You can tidy up.
But yeah, a couple things I wanted to just say at my end, and then your turn again to finish it off. But it was that this this scamdemic that has happened in the last year has opened most people's eyes to the fact that there is a global world organization, you know, because they're all colluding, right? All of the governments of the world are colluding in this, and as much as people want to defend it or say what they like, the masks are on people all over the world, all over their globe, and it's been exposed, that truth, that the governments were working together, have been working together. And the other one I wanted to say was we talk of the law of the sea, okay? That's maritime, judicial, admiralty, sea.
Mm-hmm.
But what it's about is these. It's about us seeing, okay? The law of the sea is about God, okay? And God is within you. So it's your turn to see, folks, like to open your eyes to see what the truth is here. And the truth is that God's law has been trampled on. Do no harm is God's law, and it's been trampled on so many times. So it's time for us to bring back the law of the sea, S-E-E.
So thank you. And there's one person I love so much online. He always says it this way. He said, you people plan to use the COVID for evil, okay? But on the other way around, if you look at the gains that the White House have gained using the COVID so much, and though the majority of the public are in darkness, they don't know what has happened. And some of them are not discerning to know. In fact, the people you think are alive are not. And the people you think are alive are dead, are rather, what do you call it, living. It's right. All matter of, perception. And I believe that at the appropriate time, like Nino Rodriguez, the boxer, I said, I think when all is done, they will come out and tell us, what has actually happened. But for now, people are swimming in darkness, and there are some of them who are awake. Like I use They Live, the guy, when after putting on the goggles and then he saw the aliens moving around, he said, when were these people here? How do we get, And then the other partner who was long awake said, now you get a plan. And when you get the plan, we can get this, excuse my language, motherfuckers out of this place, So there are people who are getting awake and they are asking questions. What do we do? What? Let's, they want immediately something to happen. But, that's when I tell them, brother, that is what we were talking about some time ago. So enjoy the ride for some time before we clean the mess up. So that is, so I hand you over and then you say our closing,
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know what? Mm-hmm. What I'd like to do is take an extra minute here and say a prayer because it's Easter. And I don't know if we'll get to visit again before. Okay. But it's the Lord's Prayer, the Aramaic version.
Aramaic, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it goes kind of like this. O conscious breather of all radiance and vibration, soften the ground of our being and carve out a space within us where presence can abide. Fill us with creativity so that we may be empowered to bear the fruit of our mission. Let each of us bear fruit in accordance with our desire for abundance, sovereignty, health, love, and euphoria for all. Endow me with the wisdom to produce and share what each being needs to grow and flourish, and thank you for untangling the last thread of destiny that bound us as we release others from the entanglement of past mistakes. We love you. We're sorry. Please forgive us. Thank you. Our pleasure. Do not let us be deceived by that which would divert us from our true purpose, but illuminate the opportunities of the present moment, for we are the ground and the fruitful vision, the birth power and fulfillment, as all is gathered and made whole once again to our eyes. I love you, bro.
Love you. Amen. Bye bye. Next time.
Yeah.
Till the next one. Huh?
Till the next time.
Okay.